Hey, Cannapreneurs. Before we get started with today's show, I just want to mention one of our sponsors. You know, we couldn't bring the show to you without sponsors because it really does cost a little bit of money to get a radio show, a podcast, a video production, social media, a website. Everything that's included in bringing you this show requires a little bit of investment, and our sponsors have stepped up and done that for us. Today, I want to highlight Dairy Berry's Recording Studio. Dairy Berry's Recording Studio, located in Arvada, Colorado, is your local recording studio with affordable rates. Mark is well experienced and will make your music, your show, or any audio you have sound great. He makes our show come across the internet loud and clear every week, and he can do the same thing for your band or your project. Take a look at dairyberriesrecordingstudio.com or give Mark a call at 303-456-8216. Thanks again to all of our sponsors, and this week's show we're highlighting Dairy Berry's Recording Studio. Now on to the show. Open up, Colorado. It's 420. Time to grind and burn.
This is not your son's stoner show.
Welcome back to the Cannabis Community Project. I am Brainstorm, here bringing you once again your weekly podcast from the CCP studios high up in Denver, Colorado. I'm here exploring the business side of this newly emerging Colorado economy, focusing on the business, the patient, the retailer, to the geek in the garage, creating that next innovation in cannabis. This is the first media platform to help fellow cannapreneurs just like you build sustainable business models while living the lifestyle. Let's get into this week's show without any hesitation because we have a lot to learn about, like always, like every week, just like last week. You remember last week's show? Very educational, very informative. Did you learn anything? Did you learn anything about hemp, about marijuana, about processing the plant itself, the cellulose, the fibers, making cloth, textiles, making paper, and all the other ideas that can come from the hemp and cannabis side? Notice I'm making a difference there. It is not the same thing as we learned about from the mad scientist last week. If you didn't hear it, let me give you just a few minutes right now to learn what it was all about, and then go back and take a listen to the full show. Very informative and stuff you're going to want to know. So next time you're out at a party and people are talking about cannabis and marijuana and everything they think they know, you can throw in some nice little phrases to make you sound really educated, like cellulose waste coming from marijuana stock, not hemp stock, and all these other things we talked about with the mad scientist. It'll make you sound very intelligent. So here we go. This week's short-term memory flashback with the mad scientist, and then we'll quickly move on.
Do you take that?
I don't know much about textile.
You take that cotton off the plant,
right,
and that becomes your shirt.
Right.
So if you can get this, you can get everything.
So you want to tell us who you are?
Mad Scientist is what I go by. I'm with a new company called 9 Fiber, and what we do is we are a cellulose extraction company. And we take plant cellulose and make it usable for fiber or paper. And particularly right now, we are interested in taking the marijuana plant waste, which is the dried stalk, and converting that cellulose material, eliminating all the THC, and making it usable paper and usable textile material.
Cool.
We're doing research on that right now.
The part that we're all kind of waiting for, this big hemp industry that people are talking about, is taking off.
Sure.
But you're making a fine distinction between what you're doing and the hemp industry that potentially is going to merge out there, or you explain what that means.
Okay.
And then maybe help us understand what the traditional or current process of making paper is, so
Sure.
people can kind of understand
Sure.
when it comes to threads and textiles and paper, what's currently being done and how it's being being used so we can understand where the cellulose waste comes
Sure.
from.
Our military's clothes and robes and all that was made of hemp. And it was very environmental and it was very strong. And a lot of people don't know that the first Levi's jeans were made of hemp. They were made of the hemp sails, actually, from the Navy.
Because the system is that a doctor from the system, accredited by the system, trained and educated by the system, can give you drugs. But anyone outside of that system makes it a crime.
Absolutely. And let's go even one step further. I want to key up on one major hypocrisy that, first off, they messed up altogether. The medical value is from the CBD, not the THC, which is actually CBD is legal in every state. So you can get a CBD vapor pen made of hemp or whatever from some companies, but you can't use THC.
What age did you start smoking or using in some form?
I tried marijuana for the first time at 13, as a lot of pretty much
average,
kids do.
yeah.
And I didn't use it again. I've been in health and nutrition.
Well, it's that vicious cycle, right? Of you don't want to give a man a job because he's a criminal. Well, if you don't give him a job, then he's going to go back to being a criminal.
That humanity can benefit from, and we can stop acting in a way that's destructive and start acting in a way that is productive. There's jobs that we can bring to America. China doesn't have to own the textile industry for the world. The United States used to be the leaders. There are over 1,200 shut down factories in North Carolina. There's enough supply that we can bring all this back to the United States.
There you have it, the mad scientist giving us his insights and experience to the industrial side of this industry. See, it's not all about smoking and joking, my friends. There's some serious business going on here. Some serious business that maybe you might be part of too. That's right. I am here exploring business, but it's not all about business. We also talk to patients and we talk to individuals about their personal stories. And maybe you're one of those individuals out there that thinks you have something to say to the community. Don't be shy. Contact me via any form, any network, any channel you can, whether it's social media, email, phone calls, smoke signals. It doesn't matter how I get the message. Just get the message to me because I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you about your business idea, maybe just some other thoughts you have about cannabis in general. You know, things like health and legal issues, food, music, growing, new technology that's emerging. All of it's fun and exciting and interesting, and it's all relevant to this community. You know, there's even individuals out there like Peter. Peter wrote me an email coming all the way from the UK on the other side of the pond. It's always exciting for me when I hear people from around the world are listening. He sent me an email saying, hey, one thing I would be interested in hearing more about is any restrictions around foreign investment into local cannabis-based businesses. Just because it's illegal in our backward part of the world doesn't mean that people here don't have some really good ideas and business concept. Myself and associates are busy working on a business idea at the moment, which we hope will be able to get off the ground in the US of A. Well, thanks, Peter. You know, I'm going to do my best to reach out and find some individuals that can directly answer that question for you. Maybe you're one of those individuals. Maybe you are a financial guru here in Colorado that happens to know what's going on with the regulation and specific regulations around investment in cannabis. If you do, contact me so I can get you hooked up, or so I can at least get the message back to Peter from the UK and answer his question with sufficient knowledge and experience from somebody that truly knows what's going on. So reach out and contact me and find it all from the source at thecannabiscommunityproject.com. Excellent. Let's move on now to our weekly news segment, This Week in News, Twin News, bringing you the best of news from social media that I've been able to aggregate from all the different sites out there, places like Twitter and Reddit and Facebook and a few others, where I'm finding articles that seem interesting and relevant to our industry and bringing them to you so you don't have to go out there and keyword and clutter up your browser with a bunch of keywords and have Google and the NSA following you because you're keywording. Just listen in, and every week I'll bring you the articles that are relevant to this industry so you can stay in touch. Here we go. Twin News, This Week in News. we go. First up, coming out of the gate with a good one. A new study reveals the mechanism behind the cannabis plant's cancer-fighting effects. That's right, this is posted by LeafScience.com. A study explains how marijuana cures cancer. Read all about it. Very interesting how scientists in the UK have now traced marijuana's ability to prevent the growth and spread of cancer to specific pathways found in tumor cells, known as cannabinoid receptors. Read all about it, LeafScience.com. Hey, are you part of any networking organizations like the National Cannabis Industry Association? You know, if you're going to be part of an industry, you have to be part of associations. This is how we network, meet people, get your name out there, and become educated and up to date with everything that's happening in the industry. So if you would like to join, think about the NCIA. You can find that at the National Cannabis Industry Association. Sign up or find another one or start your own, but don't be a loner, just a stoner. Hey, did you hear this one? Seattle's first marijuana shop closes after running out of stock in 3 days. Hey, we saw this happen here in Colorado back in January. I did quite a few news segments on it. We did the math. We did the economics. We know why they run out. It's not because of excess of demand. It's because of their lack of ability to supply the demand. When you only have X amount of people who are allowed to grow, but you open the floodgates on those who are allowed to buy, you're going to have shortages. This is basic economics. Let the free market be free. Let those who grow, grow, and let those who buy, buy, and let the two of them find their own equilibrium. Don't forget about the Initiative 2016 happening in California. Just a quick reminder, California Cannabis Hemp Initiative 2016 to stand up for your rights, Proposition 215, Proposition 215. Hey, speaking of conflicting reports from universities, researchers, and accredited professionals, here's another one posted by iCannabis Radio via Campaign for Restoration and Regulation of Hemp about a new study from Denmark confirms what cannabis advocates have said for years. Marijuana is much safer than other substances when it comes to driving impairments. We know this. Now it's time for everybody else to know this. Speaking of studies, a well-known medical marijuana researcher at the University of Arizona says a study she's been planning for 4 years has cost her her job. This one is actually on CNNHealth.com. That's right. Go to CNN.com and then find the health section, and it's with Dr. Sanjay talking about how Dr. Sue Sicily, a clinical assistant professor in the College of Medicine, has been with the university for nearly 8 years in several capacities. She has been planning a pioneering study on marijuana effect on veterans with chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. And yes, she is now out of a job. You want to hear the full details? You want to send some support? You want to know what's happening? Go to CNN. There's some mainstream news talking about it. How about the LA Times posting a story about the DEA saying they may be losing the war on marijuana politics? Lately, however, the DEA has found itself under attack in Congress as it holds its ground against marijuana legalization. Read about that one at the LATimes.com. And finally, let me leave you with this one. Since we're on a roll of using legitimate media to report stories, let's wrap it up with the Washington Post, talking about Jeff Misansky. You know who that is? A Missouri man serving life in prison for nonviolent cannabis offense. You can help support him by texting Jeff to 420-420 to learn more about it. But I just want you to think about that as we go out of the news here. I want you to think about this, that there's a man in Missouri right now serving life, the rest of his life, in a box for having cannabis, while some states have legalized it. Does that make sense to you? Does that seem humane? Are we saving anybody? Are we helping anybody? What are we doing? And then we have people on the other side who say, well, we can't do it because violence will occur if we legalize drugs. Well, violence is occurring by having them illegal. And then we have people that say, well, it's a moral degradation, and if we support drugs, then we have to support all drugs. No, not so. Although personally I agree, that's not the case at all. Is that how we treat laws? That if we do one law, then around the world we have to let all laws pass? No, we can go case by case. But I just want you to think about this as you go to sleep tonight on your bed in your house, getting up in the morning by free will, walking outside, going where you want to go. I want you to think about this, that there's actually people out there in boxes for a long, long time. And some of them, just like Jeff Misansky, who are going to be there for potentially the rest of their life for simply having a plant that naturally grew out of Mother Earth. I just need you to think about it and hopefully to have it inspire action within yourself to do something, to take action, to let it be known. Because if you're an American, you are obligated to believe in freedom. And that's what this is about. It's not about morals. It's not about hypothetical violence. It's not about the children. It's about freedom. And at the end of the day, compassion, humanity, and just logical thinking. Which side of the issue are you on? That's all the news you need to know this week. And that was Twin News, This Week in News, your weekly source for up-to-date cannabis.
Hi, this is True Diligence,
PI,
proud sponsor. If you're looking for a job
in the cannabis industry,
you know how fierce the competition is. Think of the character you'll demonstrate by showcasing your credentials at the beginning of the hiring process. A simple yet affordable way to show employers you're the clear choice. Visit our website at truediligence.com.
Move your resume to the top.
Hey, we've heard the expressions before. Fortune favors the bold. You never know unless you try. Act as if. You know, these were all the things I was thinking about when I sent the email out to Jay Mohr. Now, if you've been listening for the last few weeks, you know what's been going on. I contacted Jay Mohr about a show he's doing up in Boulder, trying to get some tickets. He ended up giving me 10 tickets to pass through the show for those who wanted to go along. And along the way, we developed an associate relationship. I'm not going to say a personal relationship, although we do have about 23 email interactions back and forth. And he was kind enough to actually say, hey man, let me call into your show for a few minutes. I might have a word or two to say about what you're talking about. For those of you that don't know, Jay's not unfamiliar with cannabis. And as you're going to hear on the show today, he's actually quite familiar with cannabis, personally. And I'm going to let him tell his own story. The only point of this is that you never know unless you really do try. And sometimes you just need a catalyst. And for me, it was the podcast. I had a platform, a very small platform that I admitted, but a platform that was enough to show that I was a fan and I was interested, made a genuine connection, and then here we are. Here we are, 6 months in to the podcast, and I have a headlining celebrity to come talk on the show. This episode contains explicit language. Listen at your own risk. Yeah, I know some of you are probably thinking, Jay who? But don't fool yourselves. 25, 30 years, Jay Mohr has been around. Look him up. He's been in more movies than you think. He's been in more TV shows than you think. Very funny guy, and has a hugely successful sports radio show along with a hugely successful podcast. More sports and more stories. And I'm putting my name on this one. And I'm going to let others know. Jay Mohr's been on the show. Maybe you too would like to be on. Let people know you're interested in them and you want to promote them and you want to learn about them. Because it doesn't have to be a celebrity. It could just be the business down the block or the friend around the corner. Learning about others and giving others a platform to voice their own opinions and to present themselves is the best way to not just make new friends, but to build a community. I want to give a thanks out there that says if anybody has the power to create a new strain, let's call it the Jay Mohr strain. The strain that lets you smoke and be wildly ambitious at the same time. Because that's what I think the interview today with Jay Mohr represents at the end of the day. The bottom line denominator is hard work, and more hard work. So listen in, because he's amusing, but he's also talking serious. Here it is, Jay Mohr, Cannabis Community Project.
Put your name on it. Just put your name on it. That's all I say. Be a man or a woman. Put your name on it.
Well, I'd like to hear about it, potheads.
How the fuck you gonna know how to be great if you don't study greatness? Look at the game change. Donuts.
If you want a battle with either that you will or you won't.
You know, you're not a bad-looking man, Mr. Gals.
But you are, Blanche. You are in that chair.
There's something wrong with us. Something very, very wrong with us.
Hey, man.
Hey, what's up, dude?
Hey, what's going on, Jay? It's actually, but no worries about that.
Well, I'm glad you said it up front.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. This is really big for me. I know you're short on time and only have a few minutes, so let's just jump right in, because I don't get a lot of chance. Matter of fact, you're the first celebrity, if I can just throw that up front, you're the first celebrity I've ever talked to in my life. So
I'm honored. I hope I set the bar high and I ruin it for when other celebrities come on. You're like, that guy sucked. Jay was cooler.
The only other celebrity I've ever met was Michael Richards when I was 14 years old at a hotel meet and greet, and all he did was sit and take a picture with me. Never said a word.
Hotel meet and greet. I don't think that's how you want to make a living.
No. Hey, can I just say right off the bat, you are surprisingly accessible for a celebrity. I'm almost stunned at how easy it was to get in touch with you and communicate.
Yeah, it's probably going to get me murdered like Selena one day. Everyone's like, hey, can I come to the radio show and hang out? I'm like, sure. Then all of a sudden, I wake up with my head on a platter.
Everybody who's been listening to my show for the last 3 weeks has been bombarded with me talking about how I heard you literally throwing a challenge out there saying, send me an email and I'll write you back. And it just clicked in my head. I think I'm going to take them up on that. And I did it. And
yeah.
you wrote back within minutes. It was probably like 2 minutes or so. So
Well, here we are. You know what it is? I check the emails from my website, jaymohr.com, anytime I put my son to bed for a nap or when I put him to bed at nighttime. So twice a day I'm checking it. And if I stay on top of it, it doesn't get overwhelming. In all honesty, there's been times where I go to jaymohr.com and I check my emails, and there's hundreds, and I just delete all of them because I'll never stop and I won't go to bed. So if I just do it like twice a day, every couple of days, then it's fine. And then I get to talk to nice guys like you. So it worked out, bro.
Appreciate that.
No, I've always, since I had email, I've always had a website where people could email me. Always.
Well, I mean, I've listened to you for a number of years, and I've heard you talk about how you view yourself as changing over the years and becoming a different person. I don't know if it's something that's from the past or from now, but you seem like a very genuine person. Even when you're in your characters and your impressions and your bits, you still seem like a very genuine person.
Well, I try to be. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to speak about the validity of one's own genuineness. That's a mouthful. But, I try to. I don't know why anybody would separate themselves from the pack, or I don't know why they'd be inaccessible. Because, look, at the end of the day, I mean, it is a business. If we're just going to speak honestly, the more I interact with fans of stand-up comedy, the more I get people to come out to the show, the more they see another show, and that guy does not do a meet and greet, and they say, well, I'm going to go see Jay Mohr again because I email him, I tweet him, I did a meet and greet, I shook his hand. I mean, there is like a long-range goal to it, and that is just to have, income coming in again. Like anybody can go to a town and just kill and leave town, but can you keep going to that town 5 times, 6 times? Can you do that same theater for 10 years, once a year? And I can, and I'm proud of it. And I can go to Borgata and Foxwoods and the casino up in Connecticut. That's like 2,000 seats. That's huge. But they keep coming out, and I think a lot of it, I know I'm funny, but everybody's funny that's doing theaters, Like, I'm not any funnier than Bill Burr or Jim Brewer or anybody somebody like that, and we all sell the same amount of tickets. And I think it's just, you owe it to people to go out and shake their hand, because at the end of the day, if people don't come, I don't get paid. This is a service industry. I'm no better than a waiter. If I mess up the food, you don't have to come back to my restaurant. So I'm going to make sure you like the meal, and I want that tip. Bring your T-shirt money, man. Bring that $20 for a T-shirt. The best when you buy one of my T-shirts and you wear it to somebody else's show.
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
The ultimate fucking balls across the nose for another comic. That's hilarious.
Well, I'm going to mob up there with my friends on the 29th of Boulder, and we're going to bring our spending money, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to make some noise. Because what you did by providing me with the opportunity to give out tickets, as you say, I'm putting your name on it. And I think it's just a tribute to kind of what you're saying, the balance of marketing and being organic in your activities and being a real person, but at the same time of leveraging what you can to try to build yourself up.
I listened to your show, and you put that ad right up at the top of the podcast before any of the other ones. I was flattered, man. You talk about putting your name on it. You put your name on it. You're like, hey, I'll run ads. I don't know if the fans of your podcast know this, but you said, hey, I'll run ads for your stand-up show, because I went on the Adam Carolla show, and I was like, Boulder's, I'm not selling so good in Boulder. You reached out to me. I know you know this, but maybe people don't know this. You reached out to me and said, hey, I can help you with tickets. Let me run some ads on my podcast. And I was like, all right, sure. And we'll give away 10 free tickets. And then you and I just emailed back and forth. It was easy. I don't know why the rest of the world doesn't operate how you and I operate, bro.
Well, for some reason, I had it in my head that you're just bombarded with thousands of contacts and emails. I mean, you have a very large radio show, and your podcast is huge. It's up in the top.
But you know what? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you know what happens when you do get bombarded with all that stuff? That's the stuff that falls by the wayside, and that's the pain in the ass, and that's the stuff you forget. Emails me, I email you back, we exchange numbers, boom, we talk on the phone. Anytime, any pothead out there with a business that's listening right now, any human being that's a middleman that you can cut out, cut them out. You will be amazed at the results. And I'm talking middle managers, receptionists. If you can answer your own phone at your own business, that you might looking at the lady in the skirt, whatever, get rid of them. Get rid of all middlemen whenever possible. That's why I don't have a publicist. You don't even know what people are blocking. If I had a publicist and you reached out, they would just say no, because they would look at the numbers of your podcast and they'd go, we're not really doing that type of thing. And people will get in the way of everything you do. You got to identify those people. You got to get rid of them. As Chuck D said, you can't change the people around you. You got to change the people around you.
I knew you would have some great insight, and that's actually one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, because what I'm trying to do on this podcast, I kind of joke around about being a stoner and a pothead, but that's not really what my podcast is about. It's more about looking at an entrepreneurial side of the cannabis industry, and about taking individuals who previously have had barriers put in front of them, maybe considered society losers and dropouts because of their cannabis use, but putting them in a position to now say, well, all right, go with it. If people are going to call you a pothead or a marijuana this, why don't you try to make something positive out it and make a business out of it? So if you were being rejected for jobs before, why not make a job in the industry that's now becoming legal in Colorado?
That's a great idea, dude. That's what life is about, is the opportunities. No, I used to smoke a ton of pot.
Okay.
I was like an ace every 4 days guy. I'd get after it. And I know to a lot of your listeners are like, pussy. But yeah, I wrote my first book, Gasping for Airtime. I smoked. I got so high before I wrote that book. And I would listen to the musical guest while baked on Saturday Night Live. The chapter that I was writing, I would remember what musical guest was on the show. And I would listen to that music to put me back in the mindset. And I would just Jedi mind fuck myself. But you're right about there being a stigma, and I don't understand how you can pitch in a baseball game and then go have like 15 fucking Budweisers and wrap your car around a tree, and they're like, oh, he had a DUI, he's troubled, but you get popped for marijuana, and you're like this social outcast. A friend of my wife's and I, we have like a dear, dear friend. Like, this lady is a genius, and she was the right-hand arm, this huge, huge conglomerate that I can't say, obviously, and she got offered another job because she hated it from a bigger, just picture like Coca-Cola and Pepsi fighting over one person. And that's really like size, the magnitude I'm talking about. She tested positive for pot, gone. And I was like, that is the most fucked up. My wife and I were talking about this the other day. Like, this is the kindest, most amazing woman. And when she goes home, she puts on the White Album and she has a couple tokes before she goes to bed. The job's not hers. She can't have it. And now she's trying to backtrack so the other company doesn't let her old company that she was going to leave know that she tests positive for pot. Meanwhile, you can just do fucking taking shots at your desk at lunch, and they'll be like, hey, you know, he's going through a lot of hard times. I don't get the double standard. I've never seen potheads fist fight. I watch all those lockup shows on like MSNBC. They're all drunks. They all get into fights. They're all doing stupid shit. They're all getting lippy. They're all shoving cops. And I think the police are starting to realize. I just had a story on my radio show about the quarterback at Auburn. He got a ticket because he had pot instead of getting arrested. And believe me, in the South, they would love to arrest a black guy for having pot, but it's the rules and laws are changing. And I think law enforcement is realizing these people are not our enemy. Like, they're not a problem for us. You know, it's a bunch of potheads. You go, hey, you guys got to get out of here. And they go, oh, okay, sorry, bro. They leave. They're not like, fuck you, throwing 40 bottles at your head. They're just like, all right, we'll leave. We'll go. So that guy fucked up my high anyway. I'm going to go somewhere else. I don't want to be near that guy either.
That's an interesting take, because I think it's pretty well known or public knowledge that you're a person in recovery.
Yes, sir.
Your take on whether it's medicinal or recreational seems to be fairly liberal in the sense of, live and let be and let those who want to do what they want to do, which is a little different than many people I know who are in recovery, who are very abstinence-minded and very black and white.
Well, that's for them. That's me. Like, I can't smoke it, but I don't even... This is opening a can of worms, but I don't smoke it because I ever had a problem with it. I smoke it because I don't want anybody that I'm helping, when I tell them they can't smoke pot, I don't want them to be able to say, well, you do it. That's why I stopped. Like, I didn't even stop because it was a problem. I just realized I was full of shit because I was helping other people in recovery, and I'm like, no, you cannot smoke pot. You just have to surrender to this program, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, as far as pot being medicinal, like a fucking warm bath is medicinal. You don't have to you know what I mean? You don't have to legislate it. Listening to the right song at the right time and getting your mind right is medicinal. If you smoke grass and you're just quiet and relaxing and doing your thing and you're uber alert because you realize you're on pot and you got your shit together and you want to drive to fucking Fort Collins while blazed out of your face, potheads are not watching the road, where it's kind of like you're uber present because you realize, I have fucking pot. I have to drive super careful. All those times you hear about drug busts at random traffic stops, never a pothead. Always some guy whacked out on coke that forgot to use his fucking turn signal. Never happens to a pothead. Cruise control, turn signals, hand signals, pumping the brakes. So yeah, as far as it being medicinal, I had this conversation with John Sally. He used to play basketball for the Pistons. He won championships in the NBA, and he was talking about it being medicinal. And I said, why can't you just say medicinally, it makes me feel better? Right. Why can't that just be medicinal? I fucking feel better. When I go out in the sun, I get some sun on my back. I feel better. Right. It's not medicinal. I mean, it is medicinal, but I don't need to legislate it. So I think it's all upside down, the legislation for it. And I really think it's fucking absurd. And the fact that I don't smoke it anymore doesn't change the way I feel. And if that makes me liberal, then so be it. I just think it also makes me commonsensical.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because I think what your own statement of your heavy use was in the middle of a very ambitious career and writing books kind of puts the myth to death that potheads or cannabis users are unambitious and not striving to take a hold of life and do something better. I mean, your backstory from a very young age is, there's a lot of achievements under your belt. So if you were doing that along the way, I think there's something else going on there. So I'm glad to hear that you're actually not doing it to support other people rather than to fight your own demons. That's good to hear. You're a good sponsor.
Yeah, I mean, and I did everything that you said. I wasn't high like on set. I have worked high, but then you get freaked out that everybody knows you're high and you wind up not doing as good only because you're in your own head. But, I played baseball at a very high level high. I wrestled high. I did a lot of stuff high. Because when you're high, everything seems better high. Hey, let's go to the grocery store. Let's go to the grocery store high.
It's almost the Jon Stewart character from Half-Baked.
Half-Baked.
Everything. Have you tried it on weed? Everything was enhanced by using, which I can understand that. And I can't say I'm not like that.
Are enhanced by using. Look, let's be honest. You go to a Little League game and you watch kids play baseball. If you're not stoned, you're not going to lay down on the grass. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a little Northern Lights, a little Alaskan Thunder, you lay on your back in the grass and you're like, we're on the fucking earth. This is badass, bro.
Well, I think that's enough inspiration for somebody to create a strain after Jay Mohr strain where you can use it and
that would be the same time.
For those who want to be ambitious and users at the same time. And, that's actually one of the things I wanted you to maybe touch on, because as an actor and a comic and a director and a writer and all these other non-traditional type career paths that don't really have structure in a traditional sense, you're not clocking in and clocking out in the morning and at night. How would you help other people who are wanting to pursue a similar non-traditional business? Maybe not become comics or directors, but maybe work in the cannabis industry in a very non-traditional way, but still stay on track. As a comedian, I assume you have to instill your own discipline and your own structure and understand business, even if you don't come from a business background. Is there anything you can touch on that to maybe help?
Yeah, and you're right. It's not a punch the clock job. There's not regular hours. It's not like if I don't book stand-up dates and don't perform, I don't get fired because I'm the one fucking it up for myself. I will say this. You can't teach hustle, and you cannot teach ambition, and you can't teach action. Those are genetic, and you're either born with it, and sometimes it's just the way your hard drive is installed. So if you're out there getting after it, no matter how wacky your business is, if you're passionate about it and you get after it, and repetition is the number one word to take from this entire conversation. Repetition. How'd you get good at stand-up? Repetition. How'd you get so many acting jobs? Repetition, repetition, repetition. Don't fucking stop. Don't take no for an answer. Don't leave money on the table. Be aware of how many tables there might be a little bit of money on. There's so many different ways that you can earn a living, but if it's the non-traditional way to earn a living, just repetition. And if you don't have that hustle, if you're sitting around on the couch with a joint like, why won't anybody call me and answer my want ad? Because nobody fucking answers a want ad. Get off your ass, go door to door if you have to. I mean, when I started doing stand-up comedy, I was 16 years old. I got a learner's permit, and I drove around New Jersey, and I would go from bar to bar to bar to bar, and I would ask them if they wanted to have an open mic night. They didn't have to pay me, and I would figure out a way to get equipment after the fact. I wasn't allowed to drive. I wasn't allowed to be in a bar, but I asked these fucking barkeeps, hey, you want to have comedy night? And I weighed like 115 pounds, blue eyes, blonde hair. I mean, I look like Opie Taylor, and I was just you got to just get after it, but you really also got to keep your radar open and realize there are other ways to get that money. Don't leave money on the table, but also realize it's not like a bake sale with one table and 3 brownies sitting on a plate. Look behind you, look over on the side. There's a lot of tables, bro. It's like a flea market out there. You got to figure out a way to get that cash.
Do you look at yourself as an entrepreneur or some type of business person, or are you just purely an artist?
I never really looked back and looked at myself at all until I do interviews and somebody asks. I have an entrepreneurial spirit, I would like to think, but again, it's common sense. I don't think I'm an entrepreneur because I wrote a book. I realized, hey, wow, nobody ever wrote a book about Saturday Night Live that was actually at Saturday Night Live. And then I went to a publisher and I shopped it, and they told me how much money I can make. So then I got typing immediately because there was money to be made. Nobody, all right, Boulder, at E-Town Comedy, nobody in my lifetime from Boulder, Colorado called me to do a show. Ever. I always play Denver, but you go, all right, what's outside of Denver? Why go to Denver for 2 days, make the money, and fly home? There has to be another step past Denver without driving through Kansas for 4 hours where you can make another check. So I found the place in Boulder, and I told my agent, this is what I would like to make. Call these people in Boulder. Just take a shot. It's like a small room. Maybe they'll just think it's fun and it's cool and it's hip. And it wound up working out. And then, so now I'm playing Boulder. And if it works out, I'll go back and play Boulder again. And it will work out because I've written the material. My wife's written more than half of the material. It's going to go well because that's what comedy is. When you do it for 29 years, if you don't know it's going to go well, you're in the wrong business. And then after the show, I'm going to stand there, and every single person, I'll shake their hand. I look forward to telling them thanks and looking them in the eye. And then next time I come through Boulder, I really look forward to seeing them again.
Absolutely. And speaking of Denver, I guess we should mention you'll be back in Denver at Comedy Works.
Boulder and then Denver Comedy Works South in Greenwood Village, the very next 3 nights. They're right on top of each other. And the only reason I booked the Boulder date, too, is because Rufus Wainwright was playing there, and I wanted an excuse to just go see him at someplace weird that I'd never been before.
There you go.
Make the hustle work for you.
You sound like a very down-to-earth person. You have some characters and some impressions. I think I read on the Wikipedia 30-plus different impressions and characters that you do.
Yeah, it's probably more. I've never cataloged them. It's people email me at jaymohr.com and they'll be like, don't forget this one, don't forget that one, don't forget your Boston guy. That Boston guy is fucking wicked smart, Tarek. What kind of fucking name is Tarek? You sound like you're in a goddamn terrorist cell, for fuck's sake. Jesus.
Go by
Tracy Morgan, I know 15 terrorists. I got them all pregnant. We had big daughters with doo-doo pampers. We got pregnant in E-Town. Yeah, I'm going to Boulder, goddammit.
That's why I got to change my name. Have you always just been into impressions and characters?
Yeah, I always loved impressions as a kid. And I remember I saw the movie Stripes when I was like 8. My parents took me to see Stripes. They didn't know there was going to be like girls washing their tits in it for like 10 minutes. And then I remember I came home from the beach and all my friends were in my buddy's garage, and they're like, what'd you do? And I'm like, oh, my God, I saw this movie called Stripes. And like an hour had gone by, and I was acting out all the parts in Stripes. That's my earliest memory. I didn't know it at the time, but I've been asked this question before, and that's my earliest memory of like doing impressions.
Well, is it like a switch that you turn on and turn off, or is it something that's just always there on the surface?
It's always on the surface.
Okay.
So I don't have a switch because if I can't do the impression right away, I can never do it. I've never practiced an impression to get it down. If I can't do it, I can't fucking do it, and it makes me nuts. And then I see somebody else do it, and I'm like, damn it. Like I've been trying to do McConaughey for 5 years, and I'm close. But the business of show, close don't cut it. You can't go up there with a pretty good McConaughey impression when you're holding it up against the light of Christopher Walken, of course, and, you know, Al Pacino and Tracy Morgan and Norm Macdonald. When you're banging out the impressions, you can't go up there and have one be okay. You can't have an audience member go, it was okay. So I can either do it right away or I can't. But it's not. I didn't aspire to do it. It's not like I grew up going, one day I'm going to be a great impressionist. They're just fun. Why leave money on the table? Why leave material on the table? It's just right there. Why go on stage and not do the impressions? They make people happy and they're fun.
Absolutely. And I've always wondered about this, where I'm always like, is this how he is when he's just at home on a Friday night watching movies? Or is this only when there's people in front of him?
Well, this is how I am. I don't know about other comic, but if we were backstage at E-Town, we could be having this exact conversation, and they go, are you guys ready for your headliner? And then I would just go, I'll be right back. And I would just go do an hour and a half and come back and we'd pick it up. So that answers your question at all.
Yeah.
I don't have like a pregame. I have to take a shit usually before I go on stage. That's my big thing. I need to evacuate my bowels and my bladder because I don't want to get uncomfortable on stage thinking, oh, I have to shit and piss. So it's the pre-show dump, pre-show piss, then another pre-show piss, and then you just time it all right. And then they bring you out and you go up and you just start talking.
And then it just comes out.
That's it. The shit and the comedy both just come out.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, Jay Mohr took a doo-doo on backstage. He took a shit and lit everybody up. The fire alarm went off. He made my wheelchair glove stink. Never forget what Tom Berenger said in the movie Platoon. Well, I'd like to hear about it, pothead.
Thanks for listening to this week's show. Make sure to come back next week. We're going to have more guests lined up, speaking with dispensary owners, growers, business owners. Make sure to follow us on all of the social media, Facebook, Kush Common, Google+. You can listen to our shows live from the website or your preferred listening platform. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spreaker, even YouTube, all under the same name, CannabisCommunityProject.com. We'll see you next week.